Hey all, it's Scott. Welcome back to Vandingo. It's been a while since I've done a video. Frankly, one of the reasons it's been tough to get some of the supplies in, I know a lot of you out there who are working on your own vans are running into that same kind of challenge. But today is insulation day, the subfloor, and I'm thinking I'm gonna use the original subfloor that was in the van to start with, and just gonna put under it some thin 3M Thinsulate. So that's arrived finally. Also have Kilmat going around the van, and I've got insulation for the walls. So I've got two sizes of the 3M Insulate. I got a thinner size for the floor and the thicker, just over an inch size for the walls that I'm going to use that 3M spray on and attach all around the van. So I'm just starting with the process of pulling up the subfloor, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But one of the things I thought it would be interesting to share is, there's discussions out there about how best to heat your van. From Heater Buddy, which I happen to have in the van today because it's a little cold outside. And I've seen the outcome of having a Heater Buddy. Works great, it's warm. A lot of condensation though inside the van, which I thought was very interesting. So the Webasto or the S-Bar, one of which I'm looking at, I've got a gasoline Sprinter van. One of those two, I believe, is the way to go here because it's going to be dry heat in the van. So it was a really good experiment. And I've heard a lot of YouTubers out there say, spend some time in your van, get a sense for what you're going to be doing, experiment a little bit here and there before you get the final product. And one of those things was heat. The van that my daughter and I were able to put together for her, she used a Heater Buddy and didn't have much in the way of trouble. Didn't use it a lot though. So I'm thinking if you're in cooler climates and you're using a Heater Buddy quite a bit, that condensation issue will be there. It'll heat, absolutely. I mean, in my experience in this van, which is not built out, heat's great. But something I learned in the process of warming this van up so I could do a little bit of work today. So let's get going on the sound deadening. Let's get going on the 3M Thinsulate. For the subfloor, we're going to try a little bit of an experiment here on that and see whether or not I can get that 3M to lay down on the floor. All right, so you can see the Kilmat I put up in every area where I thought, frankly, I would just go around the van and I'd knock on it. And if I got a lot of rebound noise and echoing, I'd put some Kilmat in. So you can see I put it in there. I put it in on this panel, which is where the shower is going to go. And I've put it around the windows that I've installed. Up in here, this is actually quite noisy when you're driving down the road. So I put a piece back in here. It's up against this panel. And some here, and I put these little pieces here, whether they work or not. I've talked myself into, I can hear less rattle than I did before. So I've got it around the windows. And of course, one of the things you really got to do, and this really helped, it was perceptible to me as I took this out and drove it around, the difference after I put the Kilmat. There's the OEM Mercedes mat that they have on here, and the Kilmat all around it. I even went into areas where it was just to put some strips in, and down in here, you can get a roller in there, a thin roller. And there was a lot of echoing on this panel here, and I put some Kilmat in each one of those as well. So this stuff's really easy to roll on. You can cut it, and it works great. I know there's I don't know, controversy is probably not the right word, but there's some discussion back and forth about whether to put that on your floor. I'm going to do it just because I have more of it. So when I get this floor up, I'm going to put some Kilmat down on the lower valleys of the floor. So all the panels, I'm going to take those off and show you when I put additional insulation in, but the door panels also have Kilmat, both the sliders and the back doors. So I've already, using the smaller Torx bit, I've taken off this trim panel. That's off. And then I've pulled these off. Those two, by the way, came off, these front ones came off using a drill. And you had to hand crank these babies off. These things are tougher to pull off. They're a bigger Torx bit. And you have to hand crank those off. So I've got nearly, they're nearly all off. I'll finish up this one right here. All right, let's get this one off here. And these take a little muscle. Not too bad, but because it's uneven sizes all the way around, one of the things that you got to be careful to do is when you get this up, save each one of the spacers with the correct hardware, because you're gonna use it again, right? Hopefully. And each one of them is unique. That's a different size than the last one I just pulled up. So be careful to save those. And then let's get this floor up. Be careful of this trim piece back here. I'm sure all of this aluminum can easily bend. Let's see. Careful not to trip yourself. And then this Sprinter van was built during COVID, so I don't know. So I'm using that as maybe the excuse, but they never peeled this off and glued it down. It's still, the original seal is still on there, so that's adhesive under that. Same thing here. Never took it off when they put it down. The one down here, they did. That one was a little tougher to pull up because it was attached. So really interesting. Part of the build process, construction process. I don't know. They missed it. Made it a little easier to pull up though, I can say that. So anyway, I'm gonna get some cleaner, clean that up a little bit. So clearly, that's a tad messy. And then let's lay down that Insulate and see how that looks. Off of here, let's see. Just got a microfiber cloth. Yeah, it's just gonna come right off. Let's see what this Insulate is going to look like. You can see it's got a pretty thin, it's one of the thinner Insulates that you can get your hands on. And the white side goes down. So what I really like about Insulate, based on what I've read up on the internet and other YouTubers out there, there's been so many that have done videos on insulation for your vans, whether it's wool, spray on, you name it. It's just about everything is out there to consider. But for me, this looks to be thin enough, and I'm not anywhere near done yet, where I can compress it and put the floor back down, subfloor back down, and use the existing bolt pattern. So other than a couple of trim pieces here and here, I think this is going to do the job. The other thing that's interesting, on a Sprinter van, you look at it, it looks like these are the deeper channels here, maybe where the seat tracks would have gone. And there's a few of those that are deep like that. This one, this one, this one. Looks like there's 3 of them. Anyway, I'm going to fill some Kilmat in here. And maybe just on the lower, maybe not couple in here, but I'm going to fill it up with some Kilmat, and then make sure I've got the eyelets cut out for the appropriate spots. And then I'm going to glue it down and put the subfloor back down. This product is really easy to use because they give you these lines on there, these perforations, which is really helpful to cut. You just gotta keep your cuts towards this sharper end of the scissors. Find your line after you've measured out what you're trying to do, and then you just cut your way through it. Try to stay on the line you originally picked. Hopefully I'm still on that line. I think I made a little bit of an angle cut there. But that could fit in there. Lots of these in the appropriate spaces wherever you want to put them. The idea is some sound deadening, take out some vibration that echoes through the floor on these big vans. There's a debate about whether or not this works, particularly if you're putting the Insulate down. You may not need this, and then you got floor on top of that. But I've got some, so I'm just going to use it. Yeah, you do add a little bit of weight. That's part of the sacrifice here, trade-off if it's not needed. But I'm going to put it in. There's the first piece laid down. Gotta get your roller because you want to make sure there's no air in there, because you get any condensation down under that, you can trap an area where potentially rust could start. This is a new van, so I don't have any rust to worry about at the moment, but certainly if you haven't treated your floor yet, you want to do that with either some spray on Rust-Oleum or something, paint, clean it up, and then start this process. So that one's on. All right, day 2, and got a lot of the Kilmat down. I'll show you that here in a minute. But one of the things that I discovered, which didn't take too much discovery from a mental perspective, but I've got this goal that I don't want to screw down the subfloor into the cargo floor of the Sprinter. I'd rather use an adhesive. In order to do that, though, I need something to screw into. So this idea that I originally had of just putting 3M Insulate down, the thin version, and then putting the subfloor back down on it, it's not going to work. So I ordered through our favorite supplier. Seems to have everything these days in COVID, although you got to wait in some instances. But through Amazon, I was able to get some of that 1x aluminum stock that will be the sort of the struts that go across the cargo floor. And I'm going to end up cutting, I'm saving my subfloor so I can use that pattern, but we'll end up cutting probably a 3/4, maybe 1/2 inch, but probably 3/4 Baltic birch or something like that floor to put down so that I can bolt everything down, furniture, 80/20, everything that I want to put down to put the structure here inside the van. So that's the pivot. Let me show you where I'm headed next, because as I wait for those supplies to come in, got to keep productive, and let's take a look. So yesterday started here on this front section and then worked kind of late into the evening. I pulled this subfloor off and started getting the Kilmat down. Underneath that 3M Insulate roll, I've got more space that I've got to get some Kilmat put down, but trusty supplier needs to get that to me. So I'm going to open this up because you got to let this 3M Insulate expand a little bit, and it's time to start putting that pretty much everywhere in the van. In the door panels, in the walls, like I said, everywhere, in the sliders. And we're going to use this product that's also made by 3M, which is this contact adhesive, and that's how we're going to glue that down. Also, to help with this effort, I purchased some time ago for a different project, basically a kit. This also came on Amazon, that allows you to pull panels off, whether you're doing some work on your dash of your vehicle, whatever it happens to be. And there's some really nice tools that allow you to get the sort of plastic pop rivets. These allow you to get those plastic fasteners out of the panels so you can get behind there and put the Insulate in behind there and contact cement it on. So I really recommend a tool set like this if you're going to be doing this kind of work, because you find yourself needing it pretty regularly, and fortunately it's relatively inexpensive as tools go, so give it a whirl. Okay, a couple of things. Opened this up and you can see already it's starting to expand out. I don't know if you can see that that thickness. I don't know if it's the air that starts to get in there. Not quite sure if you've got an idea for why it's important to open this up and get it to expand before you use it. I'm hearing, based on some YouTubers I've checked in on, that's important. The other thing I was going to share is that this is 3M Insulate acoustic insulation, designated as TAI and SM series, 400 and 600 gram range. It has an R value, thermal property R value of 5.3, and then there's a version in centimeters of 1.25. So this is one of the thicker ones that that can be ordered, and that's what I wanted to put into the walls. So that's what we're going to do. Also, very difficult to cut with just regular old household scissors. So we experienced from the prior van that my daughter and I were able to work on, acquired some of these better shears, and this cuts through it much easier than if you were to use some household scissors. Household scissors, you'll stay at this, cutting at this forever, and your forearm would be shot, and you'd have a heck of a time. So it's worth the investment for a half-day project or whatever it happens to be, in a good pair of shears. All right, here's these clips, and you can put a screwdriver into that gap right there, and carefully, the idea is to carefully pull these out so you don't have to, you don't break them, and you don't have to go hunting for where you're going to find them, as particular if you're going to reuse this. So you just put this in, pry it a little bit there, pry it on this side, and then that center piece pops out, and it simply, I say simply, it comes straight out. That one doesn't want to release. There we go. So that one's out. Put that back in so we don't lose it. And that can be reused. Keep that close by, and then we can do the same thing over here. One side of these tends to pop more easily, I've found. The other side, maybe it's just how it's in there, I don't know. There we go. Give it a little bit of a tug, and out she comes. There's another one. Down to the last one or two here. Those are all reusable. There we go. And you see here I had a little bit of Insulate from a prior job, and I pulled this off because I put some Kilmat down here on the floor, lower level of this. And you simply was knocking on it. That's how I chose certain Kilmat locations to see where the echoing would come from. So anyway, I'm going to start carving out some insulation to fit these panels in here and finish that portion of it and stuff as much up in here as I can, and get this door, this whole panel area insulated. This is that 3M high strength contact adhesive, and probably should have some gloves on, frankly, as I sit here with no gloves on. And then spray it up in there where you want it to be. And it's pretty good stuff. It sticks. Kind of want to keep those wires available, right, if you ever need to get to them for whatever reason. So I wouldn't want to spray on the wires, but and when you get little remnants and pieces, you're going to want to come back through and tuck them in the gaps. There, get the idea. There's some channels down here that I want to stuff some more down into, so I'm going to do that. Get some remnant pieces and stuff them down in there. Pretty sure the idea is to get some glue, at least on the top portion, because over time, if it just is laid in there and not glued down, it'll eventually all come down and compress and not cover the sheet metal that you want to cover. So back up in there. You got to get some glue in on it. Otherwise, it won't, as I said, what I hear is it won't stay up. So that's pretty good. Let me cover a few more open spots, and then I'm going to seal this door up. That one's done. Now we're just going to take these and push them back in. That's why it's so important, if you're going to reuse these, to do as delicate of a job taking them out as possible. Otherwise, you're going to be on the hunt. You can buy them. Sure, you can get them, no problem. It's all about time and where you get them from and how quickly they can get them to you. All right, panel back on. Got insulation behind this whole door. Be nice if we could get it up into this metal area. That's tough to do. Not many openings up in there, but we got most of that completely covered. So that's good. So we got the bottom of the slider done. Why don't we get these covered, and we can start here. Kind of get your line. Looks like it's about right there. These shears are so much better than regular house scissors. Contact cement. Good. And some panel will go here when we get down to finishing time. One rear door, and you know, the sizes of the sheets are going to be far larger than this hole because there's a cavity goes way up in here, and you just got to do your best to glue it if you want to get a nice seal and get as much insulation factor as you can against the elements that are coming through and around that door. All right, just finished this one. Passenger side, driver's side's done. Let's button her up. Done. Get this cut out for the door mechanism. I'm just...
I didn't get that. Could you try? Sorry, starting again. I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Siri? Why are you talking to me? So I'm just cutting out the piece that's going to extend out inside this door here. And then it's kind of going down that direction. Again, I'm putting it to the skin of the van away from the mechanisms as best as possible. There. Now we've got those wires out of the way. There, that ain't bad. Get that up under there. There. So now let's just get a little bit of glue on it. There, that's good. Let's go for this next piece. It fits well, so let me get that trimmed up, make that work. All right. I was able to get it a long piece up here, threaded all the way across to where the locking mechanism is, and then I pushed it up that direction. And it's above the stuff I glued, so I'm hopeful, cross my fingers, that'll stick. And then all along the bottom here, where you do get through the weep holes, you get some draft. I was able to stuff it there, and the rest of this is glued up. So, with that, I'm satisfied. So let's get this baby back together. Got it. All right, that's all of the back doors done. The 2 rear doors are done, top to bottom. 2 sliders are done, top to bottom. Oh, and I want to show you something about this 2 slider van that I think the change up on how I do the floor will actually be better than what I was thinking before. I'll show you. So I think the approach to the floor actually is going to be very helpful. The 1-inch aluminum square stock tubing, if you will, that's coming will help me span the step-up spots where I'm going to put both a shower on one side and the galley on the other. This is what it looks like. So because I'm awaiting that square stock, aluminum stock, 1 inch by 1 inch, use your imagination. This roll of 3M, that would be how far out I would span these dual sliders so that I could put support, right? So there'd be one here, be one there, maybe one back here. So I can build the galley out across there. And here, I'm gonna need some bracing support because this is where, back in here is where the shower's gonna go. And I got this great idea my wife found on Instagram to have a seat out in front of the shower, and up under the seat is a sliding toilet that'll slide into the shower area, so where you can use it, slide it back out, and that's a cool concept, and I think I'm going to copy it. So that's the approach for now. Check it out. All done. Well, not all done. This window right here, I got to figure out what I want to do with this. I think I may be cutting that off. I don't know. Anybody's got any comments about how best to handle that? And then once I get that, see, it's a little, I'm thinking of cutting that off, and then I'm going to insulate around that. But all done. Ceiling is to go, frankly. I keep saying all done, but mostly done. How's that? Got this part down here. This is the fun part. Anybody can do this. It's like cutting patterns. And you just got to cut them bigger than you normally would, because it goes up into these cavities, right? And then sets down in here. So close to done. So thanks for joining me. Hey, smash that subscribe button. Love to have you on the channel. Love to hear any comments you may have as I'm making progress through the van. And lots to come. All the utilities, I'm starting to think about that as we speak. So please subscribe, and thumbs up, and comments in the comments section. Be good, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.